Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Anne-Marie Thomas, tōku ingoa, and I'm the LIANZA Project Manager for Tōtara Capability Framework Promotion and Implementation. So welcome to this Tōtara webinar, which will focus on how you can use the framework to reflect on your role, your capabilities, and your learning journey. The Tōtara Capability Framework was specifically developed by and for the library and information sector. Whether you work in a library setting, public library, tertiary library or school library, records and archives or other information management service, it's for you. The vision for the sector is for a workforce that is guided by values and by library and information sector ethics and best practice. The framework includes most of the capabilities needed for people working in the sector, and it considers evolving competencies such as digital information storage and sharing. It is a resource for your professional development to grow a strong, flexible and diverse workforce for the future, that you're part of that big whole sector in the future. So I want to acknowledge the mahi that went into creating all the elements of this framework. And I want to acknowledge the pilot site, which was Kapiti Coast District Libraries, and acknowledge too the ongoing leadership from National Library. So the framework was developed with wide input from across the sector and in collaboration with sector associations, and some discussion input from Australia and UK as to how they have developed their frameworks and how they implement them. So the collaboration continues. Leaders from around the sector came together last year to endorse Te Tōtara Workforce Capability as a framework for the whole library and information services sector. And if you'd like more information on that endorsement, you can go to the LIANZA webpage. That's where you'll find Te Tōtara. Go to our website as well as all the supporting resources. And you'll also find there 3 development journeys describing the different ways that the framework can be applied in your setting. So the first journey is you developing your own professional development journey using Te Tōtara and its resources. That's what we're focusing on today. The second journey is about leading teams and using Te Tōtara and supporting them to choose shared goals. And the third is a strategic journey to support senior managers, HR managers, learning and development leads in their organisational workforce planning. So these will be covered in 3 webinars this month and subsequent 2 months. And today we are looking at your journey. We will hear from Rachel Fisher from Matamata Piako District Libraries on how she has used Te Tōtara for her own professional development journey. She's kindly going to share that with us today. But first, let's take a quick look at what Te Tōtara is and the supporting resources for those who are not familiar with them. So this is just a quick look at how the framework is structured as a professional development tool for self-reflection and for setting goals. This framework is a resource to help you think about values and capability areas in your work life. The Tōtara tree is a metaphor for sector capabilities. It's got strong roots, a heartwood trunk, a wide canopy, and the nourishment of falling leaves. And there are 4 elements to the framework. These are Ngā Paiaka, the roots, Te Tiwai, the trunk, Ngā Ruha, the branches, Te Rohinga, the falling leaves, And altogether, these represent learning life cycles to represent us as continuously learning throughout our careers. Starting with the roots. Te Tōtara is grounded in our Indigenous worldview of Te Ao Māori. Te Tōtara provides 7 principles drawn from Māori kaupapa. It honours Te Tiriti o Waitangi, and it embraces Mātauranga Māori. It identifies the behaviours for relationships with communities and for caring for collections and managing information as kaitiaki or guardians. It encourages all of us to think about our cultural values and how we bring them into our work. The Tōtara has a strong core representing the sector's shared values. This is the trunk. It's representing the ethics and knowledge of the wider sector. So this includes the IFLA, the IFLA core values and code of ethics. And these are the frameworks that steer us through the change that we're going through, whether it's change in technologies or social change or funding change or political challenges that come right up to our doorsteps. Going back to this heartwood of ethics is a very important aspect of a capability framework. And Te Tōtara references LIANZA's Code of Professional Conduct and the bodies of knowledge. In the branches, there are 7 capability groups with 23 core capabilities for working in the library and information environment. On the left, you'll see the relational sets, which are personal attributes, teamwork and collaboration, community care and services, planning, management and leadership, and that's at every level. It's not just about a leader role, it's being a leader, perhaps in an area. And on the right-hand side are the knowledge and skill sets. We've got literacies, reference and research services, information, knowledge and data management, collection, records and archives management. And so when you go to the framework, you can select and customize the capabilities that you want to drill down into, those that fit your role, your library, or your context, or perhaps even your aspirations. The framework's structured so that each descriptor has different levels, and the framework descriptors are the differing levels are for your self-assessment. There is an introductory level. It doesn't sit all the way through the framework, but it's always open to you to rate yourself at a kōrero level, because that demonstrates you're sowing your seeds with new areas of learning. But there are 3 capability levels: mōhio, marama, mātou. These 3 levels represent where you might see yourself in an area, but also where you would like to go to. We strengthen our knowledge at different levels over time. So this is about where you're at and where you want to go to next. But that doesn't mean that everybody should excel in every capability. In fact, it's not like that at all. It's a much more customized and tailored approach to your learning and development. It's not a competency framework where you have to tick every box. It comes with resources, and here is Taku Tōtara, Your Tōtara, and it's an interactive workbook available online. This is where you can record your reflections. So as you're reading Te Tōtara, you've got Taku Tōtara alongside you, and you can record your reflections, your goals, and your action plan, which is a comprehensive approach to professional development and career planning. So it's a workbook that sort of sits in parallel with the framework. When reading through the elements in Te Tōtara, you make your notes in Taku Tōtara for each or as many of the capability areas as you want. There is guidance in the workbook on how to set your goals and to make them realistic, time-framed, relevant, etc., so that you can really sharpen your goals before you get into your action planning. And the action plan is a pretty straightforward template that you can improvise and customize. So this is where you plan your learning and development activities. Actions can be spread across a whole year. And in this model, you'll see it starts at Matariki. So this particular structure sees you as somebody beginning at the first signs of new growth in the seasons of the year and then working your way through a whole year. But you can start at any time and you can continue for as long as you need to achieve the goal. So that's quite a comprehensive approach, but there's also a short version of the workbook called Pā Tōtara, and it's especially suitable for those of you with less time. And you can use Pā Tōtara has this one-pager, which you can use to create a self-assessment across all the areas of the framework. You'll see on the right-hand side the names of the different elements and the areas within the elements. It doesn't have everything that's in Te Tōtara framework. It is a sort of a series of headings, but it's your reference point if you want to go into this interactive worksheet and you can tick where you think you are in terms of your capability level in an area. So you might put 1 for kōrero, you might put 2 for mōhio, 3 for marama, 4 for mātou. So once you've done that, it's strongly recommended that you find someone to have a kōrero with. Your own self-assessment may not be exactly how others see you, but also if you're working in a team and you are looking at developing more capabilities, it's really helpful to talk with your team leader or manager about how you are seeing your current level of development. Using the action plan, which is the same as the one in Taku Tōtara, to record your goals once you've done that. And then your goals can be transferred to whatever format your organisation uses for setting learning and development goals. It could be in your PDR, your performance review process, and your learning and development goals settings area there. And you can simply have developed your goals using Te Tōtara, talk with your line manager, get that agreement and support, and then they can just be cut and copied into the template that your organisation uses. It actually enriches that process of setting goals. Now, if all that sounds rather complicated, I think things become clearer when you listen to somebody who's actually gone through the process. Now, I'd like to introduce Rachel Fisher from Matamata Piako, and she's kindly agreed to share with us how she's used the workbook, Taku Tōtara, in her own professional development. And welcome, Rachel.
Thank you very much. Kia ora koutou, ko Rachel tōku ingoa. I've been working in libraries for over 17 years now. My journey began in Auckland libraries, and after some time I made the move to the beautiful Waikato region. I'm now the team leader at Matamata Library, which is part of the Matamata Piako District Libraries, or MPDL, network, under the wider Matamata Piako District Council. Within our district, we have 3 library branches, Matamata, Morrinsville, and Te Araha. Each library has its own unique flavour and reflects the needs and characters of its local community. Our core team at Matamata includes a customer service librarian, 2 library assistants, and 3 casual members of staff. We regularly rotate across branches, so having consistency and shared expectations across the district is really important. Our libraries are overseen by our district library manager, Melanie Brebner. We were lucky enough to steal her from Hauraki District Libraries, and she's been instrumental in bringing the Te Tōtara Capability Framework to our district. You can read more about her experience in the case study section of the Te Tōtara website. Today, I'd like to share a little bit about my own journey with Te Tōtara, how I first encountered the framework, how I've engaged with it personally, and how our team is beginning to explore it together. For me, this has been a process of reflection, intentional growth, and practical application. My hope is that by sharing my story, others might find some ideas or inspiration on how Te Tōtara could support capability development in your own libraries and teams. So how was I first introduced to Te Tōtara? I was first introduced to Te Tōtara Capability Framework by a former colleague who was part of the inaugural Whiria Te Tangata cohort. Through her involvement, she became familiar with Te Tōtara and saw its potential, which led to her suggesting that I investigate it also. Taking her advice, I watched the LIANZA webinar available on YouTube to get a better understanding of what the framework involved. She also generously provided me with a copy of the workbook, which I looked through at the time. Around the same period, Melanie had also started exploring Te Tōtara and considering how it might be applied within our library setting. She brought it to our library leadership team and asked us to progress through the workbook individually. To reacquaint myself with content, I took the time to read the workbook thoroughly from cover to cover, and I approached each capability carefully, working through each module at a steady pace. My personal philosophy is that if you're going to invest time in something, it's worth doing it properly and with intention. So for me, that meant being as honest as possible about how I rated myself across the various capabilities. I saw this process as a valuable opportunity to reflect deeply and use those insights to guide and strengthen my professional practice moving forward. So what were my personal goals for 2024 to 2025? As it happened, I was working through the Te Tōtara framework around the same time that our annual appraisal process was underway, so it made perfect sense to use it as a tool for shaping my goals for the coming year. I started by reviewing the capability areas where I hadn't rated myself at the highest level. Rather than seeing that as a weakness, I saw it as an opportunity. I asked myself reflective questions like, here's where I marked myself, how can I grow from here? And what kind of support or learning would help me take the next step? This process gave me a clearer picture of both my strengths and areas for development within the Te Tōtara framework. As I worked through it, something really clicked. I noticed that some of the indicators within the framework naturally aligned with the projects I was already working on or about to start. That realization reinforced for me that capability doesn't have to be treated as something extra or separate. It can and should be woven into the everyday work that we're already doing. Although I didn't use the printed workbook beyond the initial self-assessment, instead folding it into our own training system, I still found that the framework structure was incredibly useful. I used it to shape my reflections and goals. Those goals helped me track progress and stay accountable during regular catch-ups with my manager. In the end, I set 3 specific capability goals for the year, each one grounded in the Te Tōtara framework, but also fully embedded in the real practical work that I'm doing. So my goals were from Te Ao Māori. If you could put up that slide for me, please, Anne-Marie. Ability to understand and respect the Māori worldview as the interrelationship of the living, the environment, and the spiritual realm with an overarching principle of balance. Ability to apply and respect te reo, tikanga, kawa, and matoranga Māori in daily work practice. So I chose from that goal correct marae protocol, hauwhiri, and hui processes. I chose this goal because during my self-assessment, I rated myself at the lowest level. While I felt confident and comfortable attending events at the Marae and being welcomed onto it, I realised there were gaps in my understanding, particularly when it came to the planning and organisational side of such events. I wasn't confident about organising something due to my Pākehā background. The timing of this goal was especially relevant. The Kaimai Regional Weekend School was scheduled to be held at my library shortly, which meant that I would be involved in supporting the event. This gave me a real and immediate opportunity to grow in this area and move towards the next capability level, marama. That states I can apply maporanga, tikanga, and kawa Māori appropriately in a wide range of settings. I saw this as a practical chance to start bridging the gap between understanding and application. In parallel with my personal goal, there was also a team-wide objective in place to improve the correct pronunciation of place names in our everyday conversations. This fell under the broader Te Ao Māori capability and was something we had identified collectively as important. But we had already set this as a KPI because the whole wider team hadn't fully yet worked through the Tōtara framework, and we set that through open discussion. My next goal was evaluating and planning, and that in Te Tōtara is defined as ability to review and evaluate work to inform future planning of own work, learning, projects, events and programs within organisational, financial and legal constraints. From this, I chose evaluating services using a range of tools to help inform the planning of design, development and delivery information systems and services that fit within customer needs and organisational constraints. I rated myself marama when I completed my initial self-assessment. I set a development goal that would help me grow to the next level, mato. I deliberately chose to stretch myself beyond where I was comfortable because aiming for that next step was motivating. It gave me clear direction and purpose to focus my efforts. At MPDL, we were preparing to reassess our evaluation criteria for our programs and services. As part of my role as team leader, one of my portfolios includes overseeing preschool programming. So I had already planned to volunteer for the evaluation committee. I saw this as a valuable opportunity to apply the Te Tōtara framework in a real practical way, connecting my personal development goal with an organisational initiative. In addition to that, I was also working on a staff training project. More on that shortly. This too aligned beautifully with my goal. It allowed me to apply what I was learning in the framework while building new skills and reinforcing my capability through hands-on experience. Both projects gave me meaningful ways to engage in the framework and put it into practice in a way that felt relevant and impactful. Goal 3 was on the information management capability, and that's defined as the ability to develop and adhere to rules, regulations, legislations, standards and policies an organisation needs to comply with when it creates, shares, protects and uses information. From this I chose developing, implementing, updating strategies and processes for collecting, organising, storing and exploiting information held within the organisation and ensuring these assets remain available for future use. This goal aligned particularly well with the change that we are preparing for, our upcoming move to Microsoft 365. Over the years, a significant amount of information had accumulated in our existing storage system. Much of it was disorganized, inconsistently catalogued, or stored in ways that it made it difficult to access efficiently. This needed to be moved into Content Manager to prepare for the change. As we looked ahead to implementing that, it became clear that we needed to rethink how our information was stored, structured, and managed. That change prompted us to develop clear strategies for identifying which content should be retained, how it should be organised and consistently catalogued. This process wasn't just about data migration. It was an opportunity to build better practices around information management, ensuring that our resources would be easier to access, maintain, and future-proof. I felt this aligned with my third goal perfectly. A second very practical application of this goal emerged in our work around staff training. As part of efforts to improve how we onboard new team members, we were looking at how we trained our staff in a consistent manner, ensuring we collected information to confirm that they were trained. I also joined a working group focused on training and development. One key aspect of our work has been creating and organising training and resources, making sure that materials are stored in a logical, accessible way so that they can be reused and easily updated over time. This dovetailed nicely with my third goal as well. Final appraisals have yet to take place for the period, but I can say I've completed the goals that I have set out to achieve. That says, there is always more to learn. I have looked at Tōtara for my goals for the 2025 to 2026 period, again using that same process. I feel confident in my choices for my new goals, knowing that they will have practical use in my role. Staff rollout. I've already touched a little bit on staff training, but I want to go a little bit deeper into a new approach that we've recently started trialling. When using Process Master, formerly known as ProMap, to record and track staff training in a more structured and transparent way. As part of this, we have developed a set of competencies that reflect the day-to-day tasks and responsibilities of the team. Staff are invited to rate themselves against these competencies, and we designed the process to intentionally mirror the Tōtara capability framework. By aligning our internal system with the language of Tōtara, we're helping staff to become familiar with the rating scale and concepts ahead of the full rollout of the framework. We've only just begun asking staff to complete these self-assessments, and we've made sure that the process is flexible so that they can do it when they want to. In Process Master, we created a training unit for each Tōtara capability with clearly defined competencies and prompts. Staff can work through these at their own pace. They can choose to print a handbook to guide them through it, transferring their notes onto the system manually, or complete the whole thing digitally. So what you've got in front of you is a screenshot of our Process Master process, and you can see the little prompt on there that says read the module, and then on the right side of the screen it's got the workbook and the module there so that they can easily access that. So this method brings several benefits. For team leaders, it provides an at-a-glance overview where each staff member is in their training journey. It allows us to have more meaningful, informed conversations during catch-ups. So in the next screenshot, you will be able to see how each staff member has rated themselves across the different competencies. Each self-rating clearly shows which level they believe they are currently performing at, giving the staff member and their manager a shared understanding of where they feel confident and where they might want to focus on developing further. At a broader level, it gives our district librarian insights into patterns across the team, helping her identify shared professional development needs that can be addressed in staff-wide training or team meetings. In the next screenshot, you're looking at a full overview of our team, helping to identify shared professional development needs that can be addressed in staff-wide training or team meetings. Currently, the team leadership are just all entering their ratings, and the other staff haven't begun yet, so you don't see it populated a lot. The staggered rollout was intentional. We made the decision to begin with the leadership team so that we could test and fine-tune the process before inviting the wider team to take part. It also allows our leaders to become familiar with the system and the language of the competencies, which puts them in a better position to support their teams when the time comes. When everyone's ratings are close to completion, it should look more like this next screenshot. So Process Master has the 4 ratings. When we first did the rating, I don't think it had Korero, but it does now. So we also included that, and it worked well for the other skills that weren't Te Tōtara related as well. Each level is a different colour, so you can see at a glance how they've rated themselves. And the numbers in each colour are representative of how many people on staff feel that they are at that level. In the visual, you can see that if you were, say, a district librarian, you could say, well, we've got this many people at Mato and we've got this many people at Korero. So obviously we need to cover it because there's only maybe 1 or 2 that are capable. We've also integrated the process with end-of-year assessments. Once a staff member completes their training for the year, they move on to a goal-setting unit. This asks them to reflect on their progress and set new goals for the year ahead. We've linked this directly to the Tōtara worksheet, and the process includes a discussion with their manager, who will review it and mark it as complete. This whole system sends a clear message both to our staff and to our council that we are taking training seriously. This isn't about catching people out or negatively judging where they're at. Our aim is to empower staff to take ownership of their own learning journeys. We want them to feel supported, not scrutinized. We're learning and growing alongside them, and we're doing everything that we can help them to do to get to the next stage of their career. And of course, this benefits us too. We gain staff who feel more confident, more fulfilled, and better equipped. It brings consistency to what we're all learning, and hopefully will spark great conversations between staff and their leaders. Ultimately, it creates a stronger, more connected team. So what key practical points can I help you with to begin your Te Tōtara journey? Start with yourself. Before I could guide anyone through Te Tōtara, I had to experience it for myself. Walking the path personally gave me the confidence and understanding to support others meaningfully. If I didn't grasp how it worked or how to use it properly, I wouldn't be able to answer questions or facilitate conversations around it. Make it work for your team. The framework doesn't have to be a standalone task. We embedded Te Tōtara into our existing systems and workflows, which helped make it feel relevant rather than an add-on. It's about integrating, not overwhelming. Keep it practical. I tied the capability areas to real projects and day-to-day work. For me, that made the process more meaningful and helped me see immediate value in the reflection and development it encouraged. Foster a learning culture. When people feel supported to grow, they also feel seen and valued. Creating an environment where learning is encouraged and safe will be a key part of embedding this framework. My final thoughts. What stood out to me most was that Te Tōtara framework gave me a structured approach to personal growth, something more than just my own personal checklist or informal reflections. It provides us a shared language and framework to talk as a team about capabilities, set consistent goals, and track progress in a meaningful way. Using Te Tōtara sets a strong message that we're committed to our capability and investing in our people. It shows professional development as something we take seriously. It's not just about reading books behind a desk all day. That matters for how we're perceived, both by the wider council and by the community that we serve. For me personally, Te Tōtara has already contributed to my growth as a leader. It's a tool that has helped me reflect, make more intentional decisions, and think more strategically about how I support others. Capability development isn't a tick box exercise. It's a journey of self-awareness, intentional action, and team alignment. Many of the skills and insights we gain through this journey are transferable, not just against projects and roles, but into our broader lives. It's about building confidence, stability, and purpose. So if you're considering Te Tōtara, I encourage you to take that first step, make it your own, adapt it to your context, and see where it leads. I hope I've shared something today that sparks ideas for how you might use this framework in your own teams. Thanks so much for your time, and if you'd like to share experiences or ask questions, I'm happy to hear from you or be emailed. Thank you.
Thank you. Your commitment to your professional development is really impressive. And as a team leader, there's sort of two aspects that have come through. One is the fact that you've done your own challenging, your own stretch goals. And that's also allowed you to do some projects which are about team development. I'm really impressed with what you've done, and your stuff is awesome. And thank you for being so honest and open about your own professional development journey. So helpful for everybody. I'd like to give you opportunities to ask Rachel any particular questions about her content before I go on. I want to do a bit of a summary about the use of it as a personal journey, including for those who perhaps are not full-timers and are not team leaders, but are still looking to develop their own capabilities. Does anybody wish to say anything to? Yes, brilliant, Alice.
Kia ora. Thanks for such a fantastic presentation, Rachel. I loved hearing how you had applied that to yourself and to the others. I'm really sorry if I missed this somewhere, but I wondered what software or platform that you used to get everyone else, to be able to see everyone else's number ratings and scores. Was there a specific software or something that you guys already had available, or was it something new that you used?
Thank you for that. We use Process Master, which was ProMap formerly, and there's a training element of that. So you can go into that and input stuff. So it's something we already had.
Oh, fabulous. Thank you for that.
No props.
Great, thank you, Alice. Anybody else? Okay. Oh, Tal.
Kia ora. Thanks for that, Rachel. That was fantastic. I was lucky enough to be in the second cohort for Whirigata Tangata, and it was interesting then as well to be the only one from a solo library situation, a special library. So, I mean, your setup's very different, but do you see anything that you applied, or have you had any ideas that kind of went, oh, I can imagine this would work well in one person area, because I'm kind of a one-stop shop for it all.
You're very brave. So for me, it was just mainly about the reflection and having that shared language and keeping myself accountable, because I'm from a teaching background and have a degree in teaching, and their union operates slightly different, and you have to revalidate like we do and do courses and all of that sort of stuff. So one thing that I would like to see us develop is that shared language, and not only to Tōtara, but eventually, hopefully down the track, sometime we'll all line up all our job descriptions, but that's a whole nother conversation. But just having that shared language so that we're all sort of on the same page with our personal development and where we're going, I find that very useful for everyone, no matter which library you're at.
Thank you. Can I just respond to that? The framework, if you are solo and if you don't have in your own managers or colleagues people who understand what the capabilities look like for your role, then it is a way of giving them that shared language and supporting you in your soloness, because at a glance they can see in the Tōtara tree that there's a whole lot of elements there to your role that they might not have ever understood previously.
That's what I'm working on.
Great question, Tal.
Thank you both. Thank you.
Melanie.
Kia ora. I was just going to answer a bit about that too. As someone who has actually worked in a small library, both in a school library and in the Royal New Zealand Foundation of the Blind, which was quite a small library as well. And I just see Te Tōtara as being quite ubiquitous that way. You don't actually, even have to show it to your boss. You can just use it to do your reflection and come up with your goals that fit into your performance appraisal method, which is probably the approach we were looking at taking before our council sort of said, yep, you can take this and run. We're not going to run with it with the whole council, but you in libraries, feel free. And our GM now has actually said that she's trying to bring it out across our newly restructured customer experience group. So that's really exciting for us. But I can see that you can just use it as a self-reflection tool and slot it into whatever performance appraisal system that your company uses.
Well, thank you, Melanie. And just to say, Melanie, you are Rachel's manager.
Yes, I am Rachel's manager, and I feel like I'm, Rachel just takes these ideas and runs with them. So I don't have time to do the kind of work that she's done with getting all of this into ProMap, and it's just been really great that there's someone on the team who has a passion for this, and the technical skills as well, and to make this a bit of a priority, because I certainly wouldn't have had time to transfer all of this into ProMap and made it available to the team in this way. And I think it is, it's quite a big thing to digest for some of our, library assistants or part-time staff. So to be able to have it in a format where it feels a little bit more manageable and being able to break down, and thank you, Rachel, for your hard work. I know I love you.
Thank you both. And we will talk more about using Te Tōtara to support induction and to support people in their ongoing PD journeys from a team leader or team manager perspective in the second webinar in May. So yes, Rachel is an inspiration. She's very committed to professional development, and she chose stretch goals that were relevant to her role. And as a team leader, she was able to work on goals that supported not just her own development, but the development of the service. But everybody approaches professional development differently, and particularly those, as you say, perhaps library assistants, people in different roles, who may come in and may feel like this woman in this picture here. So I can relate to this person in the picture, when you've got a busy day and you're doing all the small quick tasks first, and then whoosh, the day is gone. And you say, I haven't got time for me. I don't have time for professional development, or you're too tired. It's a bit overwhelming, all of those things. What I would suggest is, those of you who are interested in finding out a bit more about how you could support your own thinking in this area, is to go to the e-learning module, which is on the LIANZA website. And this might help to support you thinking about your growth and its importance, and making perhaps a stand, well, yes, I do deserve to have some professional development in my role. So I'm going to recommend that you all take a look at that. It doesn't take too long to go through, and it's quite fun. So I wanted to just go through some of the steps and summarize what your journey could look like. So first of all, it's about reading through the framework. My animations aren't popping up. You just have to pretend they're there. So the first step is to read through the framework. The second step is to download and save your workbook, or if you're just using a worksheet, download and save that. And then it's interactive and it's saved to your device. It's not something that anybody else gets to see. The third step is to enter your self-assessments, to write your strengths and your areas for growth, your thoughts about a capability area. Choose an area or areas to develop, and then have that kōrero with your manager or a mentor. Writing the goal in an action plan concretizes it, gets that support, perhaps even resourcing from people around you, and then you can copy and paste that goal and that action into your PDP template. The top tips, I think, for approaching your journey is do set aside some time for reflection, even if it's short bites. Start with an area that is relevant to your role. And that's what Rachel has done, or it could be a stretch role, but it's easy to start with something that's relevant to your role. Sorry, a stretch goal. And select the right method, be creative. Quite often people, when they're doing professional development in their annual review, they think, oh, there's a conference I really want to go to, or there's a course, or I'd like to do something that involves some formal study. As we know, the resources are very tight in the sector for people being able to all stick their hands up and get that. But there are so many ways to grow. So learning, reading, watching a webinar, participating in a specialist interest group, one of the LIANZA ones or another of the associations, all of those things can be part of your capability goals and achieving them. So don't let time be a showstopper. Identify a realistic time frame. There's no rush. I think people think, gosh, if I had to sit down and do this over a block of time, it would never happen. But if you can set a realistic learning time frame, then you've got a much bigger window. I think it's really important to have that kōrero with your manager to gain agreement and support, and sometimes resourcing. And as we were talking about with Tal's input there, it often informs them. It's good development for them as well. And don't forget that each of you comes with your unique set of knowledge and skills. You bring it from your previous work life or your family life, your community experience, your heritage, your culture. All of those things are capabilities. So if you have those, think, if you want to share those, then think, what of my experience and capabilities can I share? Here's where you go to find everything. It's on the LIANZA professional development page, and you'll see those 3 journeys there, and the journey steps and the supporting resources. So any comments or questions, any further discussion that you'd like to have, perhaps sharing your own examples of your journey? And if not, I would encourage you, if you'd like to follow up with Rachel. Rachel, would you like to give your email address?
Yes, I'll put it in the chat for you.
Lovely, lovely. And of course, you can always contact me, annemarie@lianza.org.nz, and Angie, who's there as another support person, possibly telling me that we're looking at going to time. Yeah.
Oh no, we've still got about 8 minutes. It's fine.
Okay. Floor is open if anybody would like to have any discussion. Thank you for your comments and chat. It's nice to see support for Rachel. I think that might be us, Angie.
I think that's it. You're right. So I'll just stop the recording, and then we'll close with karakia.